All right. So today I'd like to talk a little bit about autorotation. You guys have seen me in previous videos. I've made a couple different videos about autorotation. I've shown you guys some real clips of the helicopter coming in on autorotation and so forth. But I get asked quite often, actually. It's one of the common questions I get, and it's probably one of the more common misconceptions about helicopters, is what happens if the engine quits in a helicopter? A lot of people think if the engine quits in a helicopter, you're dead. Basically, the helicopter just falls out of the sky and you crash in the ground, and that's it. That's very untrue. It's a common myth, and if that was the case, pretty much nobody would ever fly helicopters. It would be really unsafe to fly a helicopter, just in that odd chance that the engine were to quit on you. You don't want to take that risk. So I just want to talk a little bit about what autorotation is, a little bit about how it works, and just so you guys can get a better understanding what it's all about and how safe helicopters really can be. So I'm just using my my nifty little helicopter here that I just built. I got this for my birthday, and yeah, it's kind of cool. It's a little aluminum model. It was all cut out with laser cut, but anyways, just put it together and think it's pretty cool. So I'm going to use this as my demonstration for you guys. So talk about a little bit about what autorotation is. So if a helicopter is in normal powered flight, that means the blades are spinning around. They have pitch on the blades, which means that they have a positive angle of attack through the air. And because the engine is driving those blades, it's actually sucking that air down through the rotor system. Okay? So the air is coming through the rotor system, and that creates lift, and therefore the helicopter is able to stay up in the air. And so you can fly around, you can do whatever you want with a helicopter. Now, when the engine quits, things change a little bit. Okay? So the engine is no longer driving the rotor system, so the helicopter has to have, well, what the pilot has to do basically is lower his collective lever. That's with his left hand, his collective lever. He'll lower that, and that flattens the pitch on the blades, so the blades have no more positive pitch through the air, so they're flat. And what happens, instead of the air rushing down, getting sucked down through the rotor system, it actually rushes up through the rotor system, okay? So the helicopter starts to descend, it starts to sink down, and that air rushes up through the rotor system like a big fan, basically. And so that air that comes through the rotors is actually keeping the rotor spinning at the same speed that they would in regular flight, okay? So that's a really key thing to remember. The blades keep spinning at the same speed as they would for normal flight, okay? So depending on the helicopter, around 450 RPM, something like that, okay? So there's a couple things that we have to do as a pilot. Now, the helicopter is going to be sinking. There's nothing we can do about that. We descend on average about 1,500 feet per minute to about 2,000 feet per minute when we're on auto rotation. So first step, when the engine if the engine were to quit, what we're going to do is we're going to lower the collective. So that's our left hand. We're going to lower the collective. That flattens the pitch on the blades, and we're also going to bring our nose slightly up. Okay, so that's kind of the common reaction. Collective down, cyclic back, and the cyclic is what brings that nose up a little bit. So now what happens is, as the helicopter starts to descend, we're starting to bring that nose slightly up, and because we're moving forward, we're rushing that air into the rotor system, okay? So we're keeping it spinning at its normal speed. Now once we've entered the auto rotation, when we're in a descent, now we can do anything we want with the helicopter. That's the beauty of it. It's unlike an airplane. In an airplane, you have to keep a consistent speed, and you have to make sure that you have a wide open, big landing area, like a big field or a road or something like that, to be able to perform a proper landing. In a helicopter, on the other hand, we don't need that. So, if I'm coming down, I can slow the helicopter down if I want to 0 speed, and I can just come down vertically. I can speed up if I want to. I can go sideways. I can turn the helicopter. I can do a 360-degree turn if I want to. And I can range vary, we call that range variation, and I can range variate to a very specific target, okay? So if I have, let's say I'm up at 1,000 feet or 5,000 feet or whatever altitude I'm at, I can pick a spot right here and I can say, okay, that's the spot that I want to target. Now a helicopter pilot who has lots of practice is able to target a spot very, very specifically. So you can usually get it within a 20 by 20 space, so a very, very small area. And you could have trees or bushes all around that area, and you could still make it down into that tiny little spot. So we range variate the helicopter on the way down, And as long as we're descending, we can do basically anything we want with that helicopter. The air keeps rushing up through that rotor system, okay? The bottom of the auto rotation is the critical part, and that's the part where things happen very quickly. You have to have lots of practice to get your timing just perfect and everything to go just right. But if you're practiced at it and you know what you're doing, it can be very safe as well. So the helicopter comes down, all right? As you get close to the ground, usually about 50 feet or so off the ground, you initiate what's called a flare, okay? So the flare is where you use your cyclic stick. The cyclic is what makes the helicopter go forward, backwards, left, and right. So I pull back on my cyclic, and that flares the helicopter up like this. It brings our nose up. And this does two different things for us. Aerodynamically, it's the most beautiful thing because first of all, it slows down our forward momentum because we're still traveling at this point, we're traveling a bit forward. So it slows down all our forward momentum. And because of the forward airspeed or the forward movement through the air, that air rushes up through that rotor system and it speeds it up, okay? Even higher than it was on the way down. So it goes up to its maximum speed in the Schweitzer. It's about 504 RPM approximately in that area. And so it speeds up the rotor to its maximum inertia and the helicopter starts slowing down. We slow down our downward momentum, we slow down our forward momentum, and all of that happens just through a simple flare like this, okay? So we bring the nose up to approximately like this. We have to be careful that we do it high enough that our tail rotor is safe and clear from the ground. That slows everything down. And then we time it so that once the tail rotor starts getting relatively close to the ground, we need to push level out of that flare. So again, we're using our right hand, our cyclic stick, and we're pushing level out of that flare. And now here's where the timing is critical. So now, as we start getting close to the ground, we're about 5 to 10 feet off the ground, we're gonna start using our left hand again, okay? Now remember, the left hand is the collective stick, and that's the one that controls the pitch on the blades, okay? There's no engine now at this point, so the blades will not continue to spin at the speed that they are. They're gonna start to slow down, but that's okay. We have it all timed out, we're gonna be okay. So I start raising my collective, that puts positive pitch back on those blades, and when we have positive pitch, that creates lift, okay? And that's how we slow the helicopter down from its descent. We continue to raise that collective, and then that's where we cushion the helicopter's landing right to the ground. Okay, so if our timing is good, if our targeting is good, we can pick a very specific spot like this right here. We can flare at the appropriate time, we can push level at the appropriate time, we can pull in our collective, and we can cushion that landing so that we land just as softly as you would if you had an engine. And that's the beauty. It's such an incredible experience to be able to practice this and to be able to see it happen again and again and again, and to see that you can be really accurate on your targeting, you can be really soft on your landing. So even if you had an uneven landing surface or something like that, we're able to land it safely on the ground. So I just wanted to bring this across to you guys, give you a little bit of explanation for you. If there's any of you out there that thought that a helicopter does just fall out of the sky if the engine quits, I hope this gives you a little bit more understanding about that. And those that did have some understanding but not enough of auto rotations, I hope this gives a little bit more clarity to that. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. As always, I hope you subscribe to my channel, and I will talk to you guys next time.